document. Bicycle.
There's a biker Sorry.
I've just been doing it so long, since I was a teenager. I've been an activist, and now I'm getting old, and this is how I've interacted with the world. I think that it would drive me nuts to watch the news, listen to the radio, and read a newspaper, and not take some kind of responsibility. So let's keep walking. Thank you.
Hello! I'm 74 years old, and I've just come to active peace work in the last 7 years when we invaded Iraq. I just thought we would never do it. I served in the military in 1958 to 1961, and I knew we were doing things wrong, and because Vietnam was right then, but I left it up to other people to do it, I'm not the world's greatest speaker, so I gravitated to joining Veterans for Peace and carrying a peace flag throughout the country.
So these are things that we think about as we walk along.
I was at Loyola University's campus, and the Vietnam War was still going on. But I remember so clearly Gary Soltis came up and asked me would I want to go to an organizing meeting to organize resistance, nonviolent resistance. And I made up some excuse. And then I headed right toward a pinochle group in the student union, which is what I was really going to do. And a friend of mine said, what did Gary want? And I said, oh, I don't know, I think he just doesn't have anything better to do. So it's easy in many ways for me to identify with large sections of the United States population who just write off any kind of political activism as people with nothing better to do. And what changed for me was finally just not being able to reconcile talking the talk but not walking the walk.
In college I was a business student, and a big decision came for me when it came time to graduate, and I had a job offer to work in corporate America. So I accepted the offer, but at the same time I wasn't very happy because I was, my heart was in peacemaking and nonviolence. So about 6 months or so ago, I decided to quit my job, and I got involved with Voices for Creative Nonviolence, and one of my friends who's been involved with them for a while invited me to go on a delegation to Kabul, Afghanistan.
Like I'm the kind of person who gets caught up in my own life, but I also realize that I'm living in a much bigger context. And there are people who fear for their lives on a daily basis. I'm here and I'm so fortunate to have the things I have and to have the people and relationships that I have, and I think it's important to try to do whatever I can to make that possible for others.
I grew up in Indiana, rural area, and eventually I lived in San Diego near the US-Mexico border, and I saw Tijuana, and the comparison with San Diego is pretty stark. That's one of the things that helps me understand the divisions that people make between people regarding whether you have money, speak a certain language, or have a certain color skin that opens doors or closes doors. And I wanted to do what I could to eliminate those barriers that I conceived as unjust.
We say the drones have got to go so the people can live in peace.
I have finally come to realize that this type of nonviolent social protest is an integral part of driving public policy. I've been involved in public policy most of my adult life, and I've done it in a number of ways. I've worked in government. I am a practicing attorney. I'm deeply troubled that so much of our tax money and our personal resources are being diverted to military uses. But the drones, in a sense, most of all, it's as if it were a culmination of how badly we as a nation have gone off track.
I'm from Des Moines, Iowa. The military is planning to install a drone command center. This is going on right in my community, so I felt a responsibility to speak out against it.
For me, it's as much a faith thing. People are supposed to be compassionate. It's one thing that all religions talk about, and yet where do you see it? I never really thought my religion was going to give me the opportunity to live out my political beliefs, but it did.
So I'm non-religious. I had a conversation with the Buddhist nun that I walk mostly with, and she would say, "Jules, you are," and we settled on spiritual. Spiritual is, I want to do good for other people. I want to live in a better world.
Volunteering and tutoring with some refugees from Afghanistan, Somalia, countries that have been really affected by war really changed my life. So really, I don't operate from a perspective of religious faith per se or anything like that, but just driven out of kind of the golden rule, doing unto others as I would have done unto me. And we wouldn't tolerate this kind of action here in our own country, and it can't be good for people in other countries.
I was a child during the Vietnam War. I remember all those horrifying scenes on television. There were kids who had been burned by napalm who were running naked. I thought, how would I like that if it happened to my little sister? I did my first civil disobedience action in 1986. We blocked the doors to the federal building and we sang, "We shall not be moved." And of course we got moved. When my nephew was a baby, and we weren't involved in any wars at that point. So I made a promise to him at the time I thought was an easy one. I told him that nobody at his age would ever have to fight or die in a war. And during the Second Gulf War, I realized I couldn't keep that promise and I was brokenhearted. And I thought, I have to do something about this.
9/11 took place, and like the rest of the world, I was really shocked by the insult on humanity. And I was even more worried, though, about the speeches that our political leaders were making after the event. They were pledging vengeance and saying that they were going to reap revenge. And I could just see at that moment years of desolation in various countries and ordinary people ending up having to pay the price for political foreign policy. So it was at that point that I felt moved. I had to do something.
What happened with the U.S. response to 9/11 in our names, with our money, I couldn't live with that. I couldn't sit still. I've been doing a lot of traveling as a peacekeeper and as a citizen diplomat to various places of conflict in the world.
I was through Iowa in 1986 on the Great Peace March. We came through Nebraska. They weren't friendly at all. They weren't receptive at all. But as soon as we stepped into Iowa, one of the marchers said, it's like coming into heaven.
I go to D.C. pretty regular for demonstrations. I heard a congressman say one time that these demonstrations mean nothing to me. Percentage-wise, it's a minor percentage of people that come to the demonstrations. So it's just human nature that some people are going to be active and some people are not. Like, for instance, one of my neighbors, she said, well, what's wrong with drones? Well, I'm sure eventually I'm going to be able to convince her what is wrong with drones. But that doesn't mean she's going to come out and be an active supporter. It's like the 100th monkey. When you get enough monkeys seeing things done one way or another, then the whole troop comes around and acts in a particular way.
Next thing you know, I'm getting on a plane and walking 195 miles across Iowa. I just think, well, you've got to do something with your life. Why not do something productive?
I only tell my best friends, so don't tell anybody this, that I can't do anything really. Anyway, I can do this. Well, first of all, what I do is I'm a sport person, and I carry everybody's luggage and some of the food and try to keep the van running. My van made it here. It'll probably make it back, maybe. And if it doesn't, I know how to fix it, probably. I think I found out 34 years ago that if you have an opportunity to do something, jump at it.
Thanks, Al. As Ed mentioned, it was on May 24th that I was released from federal prison in Yankton, South Dakota, after a 6-month prison sentence for what I believe was pretty much trumped up trespass charges, an attempt of a group of us to bring a grievance to our government, to the commander of Whiteman Air Force Base. And our grievance is very real, and that's the grievance that's bringing us on this walk as well. I'll tell you, this walk is really great. I just walked the last 5 days, some 70 miles, and it's as though in the prison yard, walking in this tight circle, hours every day, and stewing over these things in my mind, and it's like suddenly like a tightly wound spring, and I'm able to go around and meet with people and talk with people and walk in a straight line again.
People hear UAVs, what does that stand for? They hear the word drones, what does that mean? It's the choice that the government actually actively makes to not talk about this very much.
You know, the whole thought that a drone can make you safe, to me, it's making the whole world less safe. It builds on people's fears.
Well, knowing that the drones absolutely are killing innocent women and children, it's a cowardly way to carry on a war.
You know, while we were walking, the head of the FBI admitted that the United States is using drones to spy on American citizens. And while we're walking, the CIA tells us that they don't know the identity of 25% of even the targeted victims of drones. While we were walking, Brandon Bryant got on the Today Show and spoke about the damage done to his soul and his psyche, operating these drones.
There's people, they're just sitting at computer screens. They're thousands of miles away from their victims. And I thought, I wonder what these men feel like, killing people, seeing their victims up close, but on the other hand, not really seeing them as people. And then going home, it must be this horrifying disconnect.
The drone operators who then are following those high-value targets are really following them. They know who that person is in terms of their home, maybe their mosque, their patterns of work. And then if the order comes, impact, and they have to blow that person to bits. And others who might be in the same room or the same car or the same rest stop, that can be very, very traumatizing.
I think that the United States government's use of drones is a form of terrorism.
They make more enemies every day. Every time, imagine your own family. If a drone kills your children, and you know it's the United States or Great Britain that dropped the bomb, it would only be human that you'd be more than a little upset.
And this whole idea of having drones because they're safer for our servicemen and women blatantly says to the world, well, we're more important than anybody else.
We heard from several of the peace volunteers who live in Afghanistan every day, children who are afraid to play outside. They hear the drones flying overhead and it terrorizes them. And it wasn't enough, but to be able to apologize to them for the war and to say that they do have friends in America and that we're willing to stand up and say that drones are wrong.
And I think the U.S. public has to know that President Obama would get together weekly on a Tuesday morning with 100 advisors to decide who they were going to target and kill that week. Any young man between the ages of 15 and 30 who appears to be bearing a weapon could be eligible to be one of the ones who will be attacked.
I've been to Afghanistan twice now and worked with a youth group, a non-violent peace group out in Kabul, and one young man, Raz Mohammed, who was a particular favourite of mine, he was telling me about his brother-in-law who was killed in a drone strike. He was in a house with 4 other young men around the age of 25, and a drone flew over and dropped a bomb on their house and killed all the people in the house, leaving Raz Mohammed's sister, a widow, and their child, an orphan. It was clear that these people weren't insurgents. They'd just finished a 6-month training course to become police officers. And there was no apology around the drone strike. There was no reparations. There was no explanation as to what had happened.
And for us to do this as a nation defiles our tradition of being good citizens in the world. I think we all in America pride ourselves on being leaders. We're setting terrible examples around the world.
Round the drone, everybody, round the drone. Whoa. Raise your voices to ground the drone.
Damn.
So on this morning, just about dawn, there were about a dozen U.S. Special Operations soldiers on the ground in Afghanistan. Sun is coming up. They see 3 vehicles going through the mountains. The drone operators asked the A-team on the ground what it wanted to do about the suspicious vehicles that may be threatening them.
Roger. Ground Force Commander's intent is to destroy the vehicles and personnel. Oh, sweet target.
But this was a group of there were men, women, and children, rural people going to the capital city for all kinds of stuff, going to the pharmacy, shopping, more than 24 people. The Predator pilot thought he saw a rifle inside one of the vehicles.
See if you can zoom in on that guy.
He told the camera operator.
Is it a rifle? Can't really tell, but it looks like an object.
And then again the camera operator says,
that truck would make a beautiful target.
But fortunately, the screeners in Florida spotted 1 or more children.
Bullshit. Where?
The camera operator said.
I don't think they have kids at this hour. Why did you say possible child?
The pilot said.
Why are they so quick to call kid but not call rifle?
By this time, the A-team radio that its captain had concluded that he had established positive identification based on the weapons we've identified and the demographics of the individuals. The pilot replied,
we are with you.
So the order was given, hellfire strike the first and third vehicles, and they burst into flame. Dead and wounded were everywhere. The Predator crew in Nevada was exultant, but then the screeners in Florida realized something was wrong.
What are those? Women and children.
The Predator's mission intelligence coordinator answered.
That lady is carrying a kid, huh? A baby, I think, on the right. Yeah.
They surveyed the damage, the carnage, seeing other children. The Predator crew tried to reassure themselves that they could not have known.
No way to tell, man.
And the safety officer said,
no way to tell from here.
No way to tell from here.
We should have Hakeem back now. Hakeem?
Thank you, Kathy, and everyone else on the call. Sometimes in the midst of all that the peace volunteers are going through, I wish we could tele-transport all of them to go for a walk in Iowa. To meet all of you, we are very grateful that all of you are walking there, and I think that's the feeling some of us had of wanting a different world, wanting a world or community.
I enjoy walking, so walking for a cause is enjoyable to me. But since I'd never done a peace walk, there was a lot about it that was new to me and that I didn't know how to prepare for it. I knew all along that my pace would be slower than a lot of others, if not everyone, which is the case. But I'm very pleased that my boots have been serving me well and my feet have been holding out.
I sign petitions and I try to write letters and contact my representatives. But to get out and use your feet is very special.
I think that walking is a good way of raising awareness. We've met a lot of people. I think we've opened some hearts and opened some minds and opened our own hearts and minds in the process.
We just make converts one at a time.
All the people we connect with on the road, the people we see at our speaking events, people we stay with.
We're out looking for our geese.
Oh, really?
And then some guy came to our place and said, "There's something going on up there. Stopping traffic." I doubt they're stopping. I really doubt they're stopping any traffic. I definitely agree with that.
We are so fortunate to be on this walk. We're seeing this beautiful state in a way that there's no other way to see it. We're not just walking for justice, we're walking for our lives. I like to think that in my life I take a step at a time to try to be on a path of nonviolence and compassion for others, and so this is literally taking a step at a time.
There's a sense that I have of motivation coming from falling in love with people, and that's what I think happens a lot of times on the sorts of projects I and others have become involved in. If you know, you're meeting some of the finest people in the world.
I think the peace movement is kind of like when we hear our brothers and sisters who are veterans talking about their comrades in the trenches and the kind of love and bonds that develop when people are working together on a common cause and taking sacrifices and risking together. Yeah, a wonderful family, and these walks are opportunities to spend time with these people that we love.
Ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. That'll work.
This is the last day, the very last day. Blessed by rain.
It's a classic.
Thinking about my left Achilles tendon right now and my back full of mosquito bites. We're here at the very end of a 195-mile journey from Rock Island, Illinois to the Iowa Air National Guard Base in Des Moines. Very glad that I decided to come on this walk and looking forward to the next one.
We gotta know the drones are oh so wrong because they're killing human beings. Even if we don't hear the screams or watch the children bleed. We gotta know.
If all of our public policy were to be taken as a garment, it requires constant work. Either we're weaving the garment, we're embroidering the garment, we're sewing up tears. We will not have progress as a human race without a constant work on the social garment, and that is part of what I want to do in my own little way.
Why are you walking 195 miles, or why are you fasting for 30 days, or why have you gone into a war zone, or why have you gone into jail? Democracy is based on education and information, and when we have the information that needs to be shared in order to create a more democratic possibility in this country, then I think it's important to find the most dramatic ways to share it.
You want security, demand the drones are banned. If you want security, extend an open hand.
There's horrible things going on in the world, and often in my name, and I've got to speak out about that and act on that. And there's wonderful, great things, noble, courageous things going on in the world too. And equally, I have to be a part of that too.
Even if it's uncomfortable and exhausting and sweat producing, If I can give of myself for a week or two to say this is wrong, it seems like a very tiny sacrifice to make. It seems to me that if ordinary people such as me can make sacrifices on behalf of peace, and maybe peace would come about.
Now is the time to speak out. In fact, I mean, this has been going on, more intensely for at least the past 5-6 years, and that it's gone too far. 5,000 people have already been killed from these drones, approximately around that number. We don't know the actual details, and that, even one is too many. So I think that people in the United States need to step up and start in action now.
Here's the walkers.
My recent prison sentence, and if this walk and other things we've done over the years, we have had a modest effect on this country and on framing the debate about these drones and about U.S. foreign policy. And so I think this walk has been a great catalyst for people to process their thoughts about these drones and helping people come to the realization that the narrative we're given of a safe new technology that we can just be in awe of that's going to kill the bad people and keep the good people safe, the narrative is falling apart.
I think I'm feeling good. I think that we're accomplishing a lot. And there's a lot more to do. So, onward. Might need a new pair of shoes.